Welcome back to the Shay Davis interview. I'm Brendan Davis, one half of our channel. My wife Susie is in London this week for job training for a new job that luckily is in Paris. If she was moving to London without me, that would kind of suck. But I'm Mr. Mom with our daughter, and that's awesome. But it also means that my schedule's totally blown. But one thing I was not going to blow is today's interview with someone I discovered on YouTube, and I tracked him down. Stalked, is stalked the right word? You post your Instagram, man. It's natural that I'm gonna follow your. I figured you posted it for a reason. I found him on Instagram, and I had this idea when I watched this fellow's channel that I mean, I loved what he was doing. I thought I can absolutely relate to so much of his story. And I thought, wow, this is kind of like me about 2 years ago in some ways. And then we ended up getting on a Zoom call and chatting. And, I feel like we're at the early stage of making new friends in France. So anyway, my guest is Alekz from Alekz Does France. How are you today, man?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you for having me, Brendan. I appreciate you reaching out. And yeah, this is the start of a beautiful thing.
Nice, nice. Love the optimism, man. So we have something in common in that we're both Americans and we moved to France. And we have a lot of other stuff we'll talk about in context of this that's kind of cool that we discovered, like interest in cultural overlaps, things we do and have pursued. But first, just tell us, for people who don't know you yet or don't know you as well, who is Alekz? Who was Alekz pre-doing France?
That's deep. That's deep. Well, I am from beautiful Vancouver, Washington. And I usually say that people around here think I'm talking about Canada, but there is a Vancouver in the United States. Basically, if you heard of Portland, Oregon, there's Portland, Oregon, then there's the Columbia River, and then Vancouver, Washington. So right next to each other. But yeah, I grew up in Vancouver, Washington, born and raised. I told my wife, that was one of the most beautiful places on earth. I was biased, but you got the beach 2 hours away. You got a mountain right next to you, the four seasons. It's gorgeous. The greenery everywhere. It's amazing. But anyway, so what I did before this, I worked for the city of Vancouver, and I worked for the railroad before that. So basically I was doing maintenance jobs. But also on top of that, I have a creative side that I love to explore. I was an actor. I am an actor still. Was a musician, played music, I played guitar, I sang, and I played bass. And I got into writing too. I wrote a novel, and I'm still working on another one. But I just love being creative. And so I guess in a nutshell, that's me. I work and I like being creative.
Well, we definitely have most of that in common. I haven't written a novel yet, although that's on my list.
Yeah.
I've got not yet. Got a lot of ideas. Most of my writing is screenplays. I've written a lot of screenplays. So, what brought you and your family to France?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't like a need to go to France. It's more like the opportunity to go on an adventure. And whether it would be France or another country, I think I still would have went. But basically, my wife is from France, and we kind of talked about, she lived with me for about 8 years in the States. And we've been kind of talking about possibly going to France just for the kids' sake, because we have 3 children. We have a 1-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 7-year-old. They can learn French and I can learn French, learn another culture, just another way of life, really. Probably about a year ago, we really sat down and thought more about it. Just all the benefits too, because healthcare, obviously, childcare also is much cheaper, and actually the government here can help pay for childcare, which is crazy. Back in the States, we're paying a lot of money, especially with 3 kids. It could be a lot, and just a different way of life. And so we were like, okay, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's just start the process, and that's basically it. It's basically just us wanting to try something new, and it was tough too, because we had 2 great jobs. Like I said, I worked at the city of Vancouver, has a good pension, and my wife is a RN, and she had a great job over there too. And we had a house and cars, and basically we could just stay comfortable and retire and blah blah blah. But where's the fun in that? So we wanted to try something new and just risk it all and just go for it.
I think that is awesome. And there's so many things you just said that there's the thing about me. I'm the kind of king of tangents. I could tangent on like five or six things you just said with, oh yeah, and this, and just the one I'll say right now is, me having the one daughter, you having the three awesome daughters, one of whom's French is better than yours. We'll get to that.
Yes, yes.
But no, not trying to throw any shade, but I mean, you posted the video to show the world. But the healthcare thing here is absolutely incredible. If that was the only benefit, I would have done it. Now that I know and have experienced it, but of course there are countless benefits beyond that. But your wife's French, so France is on your radar as a place that part of your family's from. And I don't know if you visited here before to see your in-laws or vice versa. But how long had France kind of been on your radar as a place you might actually move to? And was there a moment where you said, oh, we're really doing this, when like it hit you, oh, we're doing this and what that means?
First, I've been to France 3 times, I think. I visited Paris, where you're located, and I went to Bordeaux 2 times to meet her family. First time to meet her family and friends when we were first kind of dating still. And then the next 2 times just to visit family. But it started getting real. I mean, it was always kind of there, like I said, in the very beginning of our relationship, it was always like in the back of our head, like, that would be exciting, just to drop everything and go. And people like to dream about it, romanticize about it, but to actually do it is another thing. Cause yeah, I definitely did romanticize, like we can do all this stuff, but when you're here, it's a little bit different than dreaming about it. When it started getting real for me, was one, I quit my job like 2 months before I left, just to focus on getting the house ready and selling stuff. But then also I kind of mentioned I was an actor, and I was just starting to kind of build a reputation in the Northwest about with directors, and I was getting gigs. And unfortunately I had to tell people, I'm moving to France, and this will be the end of that. So that's when it was really sinking in, because, that's one of my passions is acting. And I had to, kind of put that in the back burner for now. I'm not done with it, but it's going to take a second for me to get a new connection base in Europe. So that was when it really got serious. And then basically, I don't know, it didn't really hit me up till like right until the flight. It was still like, I don't know if this was happening, but I still don't know if it's hit me. Honestly, I still don't know. I'm one of those guys that kind of just goes with the flow. Like that's kind of my whole thing. Like anything gets thrown at you, you just adapt. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel yet.
All right. Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more. Also, kind of, I've got my outline here. If people see me peeking my eyeballs down here sometimes, but I'm looking forward to helping with that creative network. You've got at least one person in your network now in
That's
France.
true.
And
Yes.
and well, we don't want to tell any tales out of school because it's too early days. But we kicked around the beginnings of a creative idea that I've been working on. I'll tell you directly. Yeah, I've been working on that. It's there's something in the oven here. So let me first ask you. Let's just get sort of some YouTube stuff, say out of the way is the wrong way to frame it, because that's how we met each other and that's how people are watching this right now. But we'll talk a little bit about your channel, because that leads into all the other stuff of life. That's kind of what you're documenting, is what you're documenting. So how did this idea of doing the YouTube channel, Alekz Goes to France, how did that go from an idea to something that you did? You started filming before you left. I've seen all your videos, and so you've got all this footage, when you're packing up, you're having the yard sale, you're having the going aways with this group and that group of people and everything. So I'm wondering if that's where you got your tagline, because your channel tagline is, this is not a how-to guide, it's a survival story. So how and why did this channel come about? And am I right that, did the tagline come after you started getting in the weeds of preparing, or, what's the origin story here of your channel?
Probably about July. We ended up leaving late August for France, but July is when I really thought about possibly doing videos for on YouTube, just to document my my challenges and document my journey. I figured some people might be interested in it. I had no idea, the extent or the scope, and I still don't. I'm still, I'm doing okay, but I'm still relatively small. It's not so far. I mean, anyways, but as I was thinking about, what my content would be, I'm really trying to focus in about, what I can bring to it. That slogan. This is not a how-to guide. It's a survival story. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning in the moment. And so it's really survival. And it's not a travel guide. I'm not going to show. I mean, sometimes I might show you some cool spots, but really my main focus of the channel is just me being thrown into a crazy situation and just surviving. Because I did not work on French as well as I should have. Like I've had a French wife for almost 10 years now, and my French should be way better. And I'm aware of that, but it is what it is. So yeah, my French, and I really don't know much about the world. Like I know some stuff about France, but I mean, I don't know about its government too much, and I don't know its inner workings, so. And like I said, I was born and raised in Vancouver, Washington. I never moved out of my hometown before. So this is a big change. So I figured I'll probably have some crazy moments, culture shocks, fish out of water type stuff. And so yeah, then I started, once I came up with the concept, I posted, I made the accounts online, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff, and kind of wrote the slogan and all that. And then I started filming in the couple weeks prior. Like I knew my first video was going to be like us actually getting to France. So that was when I wanted to start. So I just knew what I was going to do, and I just started capturing those moments. And here we are.
What has been your biggest survival challenge so far?
I would say anytime I talk to a French person, it is a survival for me. Like I don't know, like I know a lot of words and I know what I should say, but it's like when they actually talk to me, it's like everything disappears from my brain. And so the living here so far is not too survivally, but it's actually very pleasant, and I'm learning it and loving it. But it's just interacting with people is my biggest hurdle right now.
Yeah, I feel that because I think we have sort of similar French levels. I mean, I may be a little more advanced than you, but maybe not. I mean, I have about 5 years of Duolingo. I did a 1 month course at Alliance Française, the A1 intensive. I've done some of my wife's tests. She thinks I'm basically advanced A2, early B1 maybe. And I don't know. It's always a grab bag. I'm fine with all the getting around town, polite chit chat. I pretty much know what people are saying at like surface level conversations. But the hard stuff for me is digging into anything administrative or health care related in terms of something complex, words you don't use on the daily, or you need to be like really formal in the case of dealing with like a administrative type office. You have to be very specific type of language that isn't what we use with our friends so much. And then just people talk a million miles an hour. Your wife seems really awesome, but in your video and for people who haven't watched, it's right there on Alex's channel. His most recent video, as of the moment we're recording this, is the first, and what I understand is a new series with your oldest daughter. And tell me her name again.
Oh, Waverly.
Waverly, and she's 7?
So
7. And why don't you tell people what this video is? Okay. And you can actually, we're talking about your levels of French, so this is kind of a perfect time to plug this super cute and brave video, Alekz. It's very brave.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wanted to see where our starting point is, me and my daughter, our French levels, because we just got here recently, and obviously Waverly has not had formal training. We've been here a month, and she's been in French public school since then. And sometimes, throughout her life, my wife would talk French to her. So she has that. And for me, I've been studying off and on French for 5 years, really nowhere near as I should be. So I just want to see our base level, because what we're going to do is we took a series of progressively harder questions or phrases in French, and see who got it right. And we're going to keep doing that every few months to see how we progress. And I was blown away and surprised that Waverly actually won. And she didn't have when my wife was telling me the questions, I had to like have her stop and repeat the questions like multiple times. And I thought she was going super fast. And then I watched what Waverly did, and she was like just getting the questions right away. I'm like, what is going on? I thought I was going to win the first one, but no, she won, and she'll probably win each time. But I'm not going to give up. Next time, I'm going to come in swinging. But I was surprised, and it just shows kids, they're resilient and they're like sponges, and they're going to be fine. So if you are one of those people that are worried about your kids adapting to French life, if you want to move over here, the French language, I would say that's not something to worry about. They will soak it up. They will be okay. And we didn't go to private school. I know some of you guys want to go to private school, half English speaking. Just throw them into the French school. Just let them just get fully immersed. I think that's the best way, because my kids are loving it so far.
Well, I was going to ask you how they're doing, and I definitely have even more family stuff that I want to follow up on. But I want to close the loop on what I brought up that video. To me, your wife was speaking very fast. I mean, but she's speaking at a normal French person's pace in conversation. So people watch that video and hear Alex's wife asking the questions. I mean, that's the pace it goes by. You slow her down. I'm like, and then I'm hearing the word that I'm confused about, So I got one more right than you did, I think, but I'm giving myself a little credit. I'm not sure that I got it right. I think I got 9 out of 10, but your daughter's very impressive, and you also did a good job, honestly, because for me it took a while to be here. Although I've been doing the apps and watching French shows with English subtitles, but listening to French and then trying to change to French subtitles and English dubbing, which I hate dubbed anything. I hate dubbed shows, but it was a way to help sort of reverse train my brain on like a movie that I already knew really well. So I know what the dialogue is, to hear the French equivalent or, read the French words to kind of soak it in.
Sorry, I have heard that. That's a good advice. And actually, I just want to shout out to all the people in the comments dropping me beautiful advice and suggestions and reaching out to me. I've been very humbled and overwhelmed by that latest video, the 1 month in France. It kind of blew up a little bit, and I can't comment on everyone's comment, but I do read most of it. And I just got to say thank you guys for all the suggestions and everything you're saying, because it means a lot. It's really great. Thank you.
Well, that's part of what I was going to say to sort of wrap up my, YouTube focus part of this is, you mentioned, you're a small channel. You're bigger than us. I mean, your channel is taken off really fast, which is part of what, the lovely algorithms told me, hey, you might like this guy's channel. And I did. And when we started talking, I I realized for myself watching your videos, and then I got to know you a little bit better on our last phone call, on our last Zoom. And, we obviously have a lot of stuff that's different about us, but we have a huge amount of overlap. You're probably the most similar person to me who I've seen on YouTube, who is doing a YouTube thing. I mean, we I think are probably the most overlap. We're just in different places on the timeline. You got a bigger family and a French wife. I've got a Chinese wife and a young baby. But I feel like we got so much in common that, I figure we got to stick together, man. We got to figure this YouTube and France thing out a little bit together, because we're figuring it out as we go too. You mentioned the response you've got. That video, I looked it up just before we started recording today. I guess it was 5 days ago that video came out, and it's got like 35,000 views. So congratulations. People love it. It's a cool video. And I think anybody who hasn't seen it, his 1 month in France, it's a cool time capsule. And what, I'll ask you more introspective, philosophical stuff later, but I'm going to ask you, I'll tell you now, so you can be thinking about it at the back of your brain. What do you think you'll think when you look back at that a year from now? But don't answer that yet. We got more present tense stuff. So let's just talk about the move, your first impressions, getting to France. what was it like to actually, make the move? Like, what did you have to do? I mean, you guys had houses and cars, like you said, jobs. I saw the video. You got, nice big house, tons of American family stuff. What was it like to like pack
Um,
up, sell stuff, fly in with kids? And Waverly came ahead on her own. I'll let you tell the story, but yeah, tell people what it was like just to actually make the move logistically.
Logistically, there's a ton of stuff we have to do. Sell the cars, obviously, sell the house. And actually, my mom had to actually sell my car because we didn't quite pay the car off in time. And so I couldn't be there, but I had to transfer ownership to her. I don't know. It was a big, complicated mess, but it sold and that was fine. But yeah, then selling all your stuff, you got to think about everything. We're not trying to send a bunch of things to France, it's just really small stuff. So we sold pretty much everything we owned and saying goodbye to friends and family, that's tough. And Waverly, she actually flew ahead of us, which is daunting in itself because a 7-year-old on a 10-hour, 12-hour flight by herself, she's never done that before. And it's like, oh my gosh, are you sure you want to do that? Like, I mean, that's scary for me. But she did it just fine. And I was blown away and she had no issue. But yeah, then we quit our jobs. It's just, you really are like starting a new life. So think about your life here and pretty much bring that to a close almost and then start over again. But funny enough, just doing all of that, like I said before, it didn't really hit me. I didn't feel like I was just kind of going through the motions like, well, I guess I got to do this now. I guess I got to do this now. And I look back kind of, and it's like, it was like a lifetime ago, like even though it was just a month ago. And I look back and it's like, I really, besides, the friends and family, it's like, I really didn't need all that stuff. Like, you can be fine. And I don't know, it's just, you adapt and you change. And I feel like I'm already just looking forward. I'm not looking back anymore.
Was there anything in particular you can remember, like that first week you arrive in Bordeaux? What was going through your head? Like that first week and, getting over, depending on jet lag you had or whatever, like, but just like, oh my God, this is for real. We've done it. And did you think, oh shit, what have we done? What was that first week like?
I mean, the first week was more like the, oh shit, what have we done than anything else? Because one, we moved into my my wife's parents' place and it's not that big of a house and there's 5 of us. So that is just that dynamic. And plus we had jet lag and the kids were all not sleeping and that was a lot. And everyone's speaking French. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, get me out of here. What have I done? But obviously things started to calm down. And I don't know, I was just ready for the adventure, honestly. I wasn't so much like, what have I done? It's just more of this, that situation was crazy in the very beginning, but I was, opportunistic and excited, really.
Is there one specific moment that you can remember? You probably had a lot of these. I know that I have, when I've discovered a new thing and I like it, and it's like I discover some new aspect of living here that I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. Was there do you remember specifically a moment where you thought, okay, this is why we came here?
Mm-hmm. Man, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of moments actually like that. Really, one of the moments that I love the most, and it's something I can enjoy all the time, is walking. I love walking here. It never gets old, even though I walk, 20,000 plus steps sometimes a day. Just the architecture, everything's beautiful. The people are beautiful. Everyone has style, even if it's not a good style, it's still a style. It's just, I love people walking. I love getting around. And especially when the weather's nice, it's just, I mean, that right there is one of the moments I'm like, man, I love being here. I mean, this is why we're here. And yeah, it's just so great to walk. Bordeaux, I mean, sure, it's the same in Paris because I'm sure Paris, it's Paris. But Bordeaux has so many great landmarks and great spots. And it's just so beautiful here.
Okay, so you're pretty well situated down there in Bordeaux in terms of staying with your in-laws, which has to be relief. At least you don't have to figure out, okay, here's how I start a utility account, and all this stuff. And you have help. You have a French wife who can help you like get your phone plan together, things like that. What would you say your relationship is with French paperwork these days? Kind of what's the story of like do you get I think you have a spousal visa, and I guess you can turn that into a residence card. What's your deal right now, and kind of what's your take on French bureaucracy? Because people have a lot of feelings about that.
Yeah, right. That's one of the main things I heard. The French bureaucracy is slow and blah blah blah. And yeah, I mean, so I have the spouse visa. I think it's called it's like a privé famille privé. I'm not sure what it's called exactly, but it allows me to find a job right away. And it can be, well, once I got here, I mean, I would love to ask you some questions, like how long it took for you to get when you announced yourself to OFI to get an interview. Because first thing you're supposed to do, when you get here on a visa, is to announce yourself to the immigration office, and then you'll get an interview and get an appointment to get your titre de séjour. De séjour, I think it's called.
Yes.
So then
That's
that's like
that's how I've learned how to say it after a lot of trial and error.
but yeah, right now I have nothing. I got the visa and I'm still waiting for my appointment. So that is French bureaucracy right there. But France Travail, I have had 2 appointments with them, and they are a government agency. I didn't have the right paper both times I went. Even though the first time I went, the guy said, "Oh, you have the paper. Just print it off and bring it in." And then I brought it, and he's like, "No, that's not the right paper." But me and my wife, we're talking. I'm pretty sure that was the right paper, and the guy second guy didn't know what he was talking about. But I don't know. But so I'm just kind of in limbo a little bit, waiting for the appointment with OFI. But in the meantime, I can still find a job, and I'm still resident here, so I'm still living the life.
Nice. Well, something we didn't tell people yet, but I'll be posting this on my channel when I post this interview on our channel, it'll be in the description. We're gonna flip the tables and probably do a wardrobe change so it looks like a different day. But you're gonna interview me after this or tomorrow, depending on camera batteries and things. And I'm happy to detail our experience then, but and even as a nutshell right now, I have a really weird special case in that, I had a talent passport visa as an artiste, as a film producer. That's what brought me here, and the how and why of that. We'll save that for my interview because it's kind of a long story, but essentially, it's a very special kind of VLS-TS visa, and it's a live and work permit. It's a residence visa and a work permit rolled into one, and my family could come with that. And it was just Susie at the time, although she had the bun in the oven. And then Geneva was born here in Paris. But that specific visa, the passport talent, is one of the harder ones to get. And my specific niche is, according to the stats, Susie found all these French stats on this. It's the rarest visa type, apparently. I mean, there may be something like a diplomatic visa, but like that normal people can sort of get. So regarding the OFI appointment you mentioned, OFII, I thought we had to do that too. Turns out we didn't have to do that. What we had to do is we had to validate it. You have to validate it within, what is it, a month after you arrive. You have to validate the visa online, and you buy the tax stamp digitally. There's other ways to do it, but we bought the tax stamp, and we did all that stuff online, and then we had to wait until basically that was a 1-year visa, and it is automatically renewable for a titre de séjour, for an up to 4-year residence card, but it doesn't automatically renew. You go through this whole process, and I killed a couple of, I used several branches of trees worth of paper for doing the application and the back and forth, and it's an epic tale of actually getting my residence card. But I got it, and Susie now has hers because we've been here. We're it'll be 2 years in December that we landed to move. We had been here a year earlier to honeymoon reunion visit for a while. So yeah, my story is atypical, but I feel you for yours because there's so much about it that was opaque for ours, and not getting responses, not having a way to contact, except, it's like, oh, you must call. You can't email, you can't do some web portal thing. You must call. Okay, you call and you get like a never-ending loop of an automated system, and you can never talk to a person, leaving a message and then never seeming to get a reply. Let me ask you this though. Is there a French system in terms of the admin stuff? Is there a French system that has actually really impressed you? Because I've got some examples of that for me.
Man, I mean, I'm not sure. My wife does most of the French stuff, if I'm being honest right now. So I mean, I'm not too knowledgeable about that, but I am impressed with the French transit system, even though it's not really exactly what you're talking about, but it's still very impressive. It's easy to get around town. The buses, trams, and trains, it's all connected. The app, super simple, very user friendly, and I'm impressed with that though.
It's awesome here too, and we're in the suburbs. We're not in Paris. We're in a city I'm 2 stops on the RER train from like proper Paris, and if I had a car, it's like a 8-minute drive, and okay, I'm technically in the 12th arrondissement. I'm like in the 12th district on the southeast. So we're super duper close. Like we take a bus to the RER train, and then I mean it's real quick to get into Paris for us. And we did live in Paris. We have lived in Paris a couple of places, but yeah, the transit system is awesome. I'm a huge fan. Is there one piece of advice that you might give other future new arrivals in terms of administration? Anything you would tell people who think they might want to do something similar to what you or we have done?
Man, I would say just have an open mind, really, and just kind of embrace the culture. Don't try to come in with all this set stuff in your head. Just embrace it. And I think that's the easiest way to adapt is really just go with the flow and embrace the people and the culture. Don't try to be so headstrong about your ideas or beliefs, and just go along for the ride, really.
Well, let's talk about culture more and the family. So we already know that Waverly's French is honestly coming along really, really well. How are the kids adapting? I mean, besides language, like school, are they making some little Frenchy friends? I mean, how's the family settling in? Obviously, your wife's back home, so that probably helps the kids. I'm sure, like you said, it helps you too because she can help deal with the stuff that you would have to figure out totally on your own.
Right.
But yeah, how are the kids liking it, loving it, adapting?
The kids love it, honestly. I asked them recently, do you like living here or the States better? And they said here. But I mean, they're kids. I don't know if they really know what they're talking about, but they do really enjoy it, and I could see it. School's going great for both of them. My oldest 7 and my youngest 3. This is actually her first time going to school because in the States, I think preschool starts at 4, and here it's 3. So she's started going to school and she loves it. And the teacher, we just had a teacher conference the other day. Both the teachers for my kids said they're doing great. They're not worried about them not going to be able to speak French. Some of them, Waverly does speak French sometimes. And Inaya, my second oldest, listens a lot and understands more than I think she lets on. And my youngest kid, she started her nanny, the Nunu, here, and she loves the Nunu. And, she's going to be speaking French too, because the Nunu just speaks French and everyone speaks French here. They're all going to be speaking French but me, but they all love it. They really do. They like the food. I don't know. The kids love it.
I think I might have said this on our call off camera, but for the sake of people watching this, yeah, I can absolutely validate for you that what's your youngest name again? Your 1-year-old?
Sloan.
Sloan. So is Sloan going to daycare? Yeah, she's going to the new, you said.
Mhm.
And are you going to maybe get her into the daycare system, you think, or do you want to maybe stay with a new?
I'm not, if we have to, I mean, we might have to get daycare at some point when I get a job or I have like gigs come some, God forbid, I actually get some gigs as an actor. We might have to change some things around, but we'll see.
Geneva, call her Jenny. I told you offline that this is now her second year. She just turned yesterday, was technically 21 months old. And yeah, they start pretty, I mean, daycare is daycare, but the crèche system, the French daycare, it's kind of amazing. And we've been in two of them. We've been in a city, like a municipal, crèche municipal, which the city of Champigny-sur-Marne, our former city, which it's adjacent to us, unless you know where the dividing line is, you don't know you've gone from here to that one. And now we're part of this, what's called a crèche parental or parental daycare, where the parents all help operate the logistics of it. And there's a professional staff, director, assistant director, chef, like a housekeeper, and several childcare workers, and who are trained like early childhood educators. And the parents, though, we all do a few shifts. It varies month to month. But we all do a few partial shifts where we go help out, and we either help play with the kids, let the staff do other stuff. If you have one of the shifts that's end of day, then you are helping like collect the trash, load the dishwasher, put the bottle sterilizer together and get that going.
Oh,
And it's actually, I initially thought when I read through with the help of ChatGPT, translating all of these French, like the phone book, old American style phone book worth of document via PDF of the rules and how this operates and what you have to do, your responsibilities. I misunderstood. I thought every family had to do one full day per week. And I'm like, how do people go to work? How the hell does this work? The shifts are like 2 to 3 hours, and you do between 2 to 4 a month per family. So I've done two of them now, and it's actually I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind washing dishes or throwing clothes in a dryer. I mean, that's whatever. Taking out the trash. Okay, cool. It's actually, and there's a lot of playing with the kids, or if they go to the playground that's outside, you have to have one big person for every two little people to each to have a little hand and walk them to and from the building and the gym and the park. And it's actually really awesome because, like I know all the kids now. And the thing I was going to say to you is that, and for the sake of people watching, is that Jenny, because she's in a totally French language environment now, going on her second year in this system, and she's born here. She's never been outside the Paris metro region, not yet for a second. And she totally understands us seemingly equally well in English and Chinese, because my wife tries to only speak Chinese to her. We speak English at home, and Susie and I practice French. But then Jenny is surrounded by French all the time. And what was really funny is she went from like, there's educational videos we watch. I don't know if, we try to limit the screen time, and we control it, of course. But I mean, I know all of Miss Rachel's scripts and songs by heart at this point. And bless her heart. I mean, I'm glad she exists. She's certainly saved us some pain sometimes when we need a minute to go do something, and we know Jenny's going to be captivated. But Jenny went from saying, mama, dada, she says, mamo, papa, mamo, papa. It's hilarious. And she will all of us, she has all these French words that she speaks. She's not doing complete sentences, but she's a mix. And she
wow.
understands a lot of super common stuff in three languages. You can
Wow.
refer to, so you can tell her something in any language that's like a regular thing that we tell her, and she knows what it means.
That is so
So it's pretty cool, I wish if I could go back in time and be born here, with a mixture of parents, I guess I would.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah, kids are so just I don't even understand their brain. They're just so adaptable and absorb so much information. It's just, how can they do that? We need to unlock something that just unlocks that in our brain so we can be like that too.
All right, so quick little technical note for all of y'all is that one of our cameras has died, so now we are going right into the Zoom camera. So if you notice our picture quality, it shouldn't suck too bad, but it actually looks fine to me. Does it look good on your end? Okay, cool. We're going to keep rolling with this. So I want to ask you, and I think I know the answer to this. You kind of already hinted at this strongly. How are you and your wife dividing the chaos of settling into French stuff? Are you basically, if it's French, it's her? Is that kind of the rule of thumb?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, French. I mean, I try to do stuff like I've been doing, Waverly's homework with her, and actually, I learned a little bit too. It's very elementary. I found that if I work on it, it's just me working on French more, so it's not a bad thing. So no, I do the homework, but yeah, the French administration stuff, like the heavy hitting French stuff, yeah, I can't handle that. The wife, thank goodness she's there for me. And people don't really have to know. When I did visit here in Paris and Bordeaux as a visitor, I did think I had her as a guide, and no one really knew I was a not a French person, So I had that. So I never really experienced the. And we'll get into this when I interview you, but the rude French person to Americans, because I haven't really experienced that yet. Not even here since I've lived here. People are very friendly, and I'm kind of getting off topic, but for the French administration stuff, absolutely, wife has a handle on all that.
And I look forward to talking about that with you on my interview. And I'll go ahead and just second it here. Yeah, I think that's an ugly American stereotype, frankly. It's just right. People, what's that? My mom, it's an old Southern, because I'm from the Southern U.S. before, 20 years in L.A. and then Beijing and here. But, it's what more proper Southern people call a lack of home training. That promotes rude responses. French people are polite and they're reserved, and they're not your bro. I'm not a bro-y kind of guy anyway, myself. So it's okay, cool. I don't have a stick up my butt, but I'm also not like overly formal for the sake of being overly formal, as saying that for the keeping that in the video, as saying that demonstrates. So let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to some career stuff. So last question though, about family kind of thing. Is there some French parenting habit that you identify as such that you actually like better than the American, whether it's parenting / child raising, child expectation? Is there something that stands out to you that you actually like better than how it is back home?
Well, I don't know about better. I can't say what I actually don't like as much. They seem to eat dessert after every meal. Like they said, they get a dessert after lunch. I'm telling my wife, like, there's only dessert at dinner. But no, they want like yogurt after lunch or something. Like, you just ate a bunch of food. You don't need more food. And it's like, no, it's France. We eat dessert all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that drives me a little nuts. It's not a big deal. But then just eating late it was a big adjustment for me, because we usually ate dinner around 6 o'clock back in the States. And I have the kids in bed, start going to bed at 7. But now it's like we're eating like 7:30 or 8. It's a lot later. And some restaurants don't even open till like 8 or 9, so there's people out a lot later here, but somehow, you still sleep in enough hours and wake up early, and it's okay. So I don't know, something's in the air here, but it all works out. But what I really like, raising kids here, I'm not sure. I gotta think about that.
That's all right. Well, give it a little more time. You'll get into the groove, and again, because you have your family unit kind of bubble, and you got your in-laws as well, and then Sloan goes to the new. You're not in school with the older kids, so I probably got a different perspective because I'm in these. Especially now, like I'm in that daycare. I know the other parents, and know the staff, of course, and I know the kids, and so it's a different thing. I would say that I can tell you a thing that I like that you will probably see the longer you're here and have more time getting out with the kids and everybody. You see other people. Um, is that I mean, and I'd heard this, and now I've seen it for myself a lot that I really like is that the kids are really raised to be part of the family, but they don't dictate. Basically, and this could come off sounding bad, and I don't mean it that way, but I'll just say it and clean it up if I have to, is that there's this thing, and it's in China and it's in the US, to a way in a way in China there's this social issue they have where because of the one child policy that existed forever. And again, I won't get on a big tangent about the exceptions to this rule, but it created this phenomenon known as the little emperor or little empress, where everything, because they could only have the one child, everything revolves around that child. In a way, you see it in the States sometimes where, you see people out at a restaurant and there might be the one kid who's horribly misbehaving and they're old enough to know better. I mean, little kids got to figure stuff out, but they're old enough to know better. And, there's always extenuating circumstances, et cetera. But they're old enough to know better. And you hear the mom go, no, Hunter, no, 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 Hunter, no. What did it? No, Hunter, we talked about this. And like, the kid, it's like, oh, you don't like that? I don't want fries. Throws the fries. Okay, well, how about a baked potato? Go to a baked potato. I don't want a baked potato. They don't play that in France. In France, you sit there like a proper little civilized human, just smaller, compact size. You sit there like a proper little human, and you learn how to use your cutlery, and you let the grown-ups talk, and you're part of it. It's like, it'd be like, so Jenny, what did you think? Did you have a good day at school today? It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. What did you do? Play, play, play. Oh, cool. And so they engage. There's this, what I'm trying to say in so many words, and this isn't my interview. What am I doing talking so much? But the reality is that the children are raised from the jump here in French families. Jenny's not getting that exact experience because, half her family's American, half her family's Chinese. Children are raised better. Better. I'll just say it. They're raised to be more civilized, which is why even like we're passing, like if I'm pushing the baby stroller and there's a whole bunch of kids and they're coming down the hill on the sidewalk and they're rambunctious. They're like, like teenagers or whatever. And they got their scooters and their bikes or their skateboard. Not so many skateboards. I've seen a few, but they got their e-scooters, whatever. And they're totally raising hell. Maybe they're kicking the ball between them. And there's this whole mass of these kids just coming down the sidewalk. And in a lot of places in the US I've lived, you would just like you got to dodge these kids, and they get near you, and they're like, and then they all like get all single file. It's like bonjour, 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 monsieur, bonjour, oh bonjour, baby. Like they get all super polite in single file, and then they pass us, and they're like, wow.
Wow.
They go back to like the soccer match on the sidewalk that they were having, and that is
Yeah, I mean,
well done, France. Well done, France.
Realization. Yeah, I haven't quite experienced all that, probably just because I haven't been around here long enough to really notice all that. But the few interactions I have had with kids, I've all been very friendly. I have not been worried that someone's gonna do something to me or anything like that. Gang of kids, running around. But no, everyone's been good. But that is reassuring to hear because my kid's about to be raised French. And so is yours.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your career and this creative path that you have had. You're an actor, you're a musician, and you sort of alluded to this, and I know some of the story from you telling me offline, but for the sake of folks watching, how are you approaching the creative industry here? What are you doing? Are you connecting with like any casting directors? Are you looking for English language projects? Are you trying to get in there with your Je parle français? Like how are you doing with the creative endeavor so far? It's only been a month.
So when I first knew I was moving, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I was like messaging. I looked into the region where I was going to live, Bordeaux, and like kind of looked up casting directors or people making films, and I just shot them an email. Or I'm also on a bunch of Facebook groups of casting in France, and so I would see a posting and they'll translate it to English, so I know what it says, and then I'd send them a email. And sometimes they'd reach back and then they'd be like, okay, let's hop on a phone call. Let's talk. But then I'm like, oh, what have I done? I can't hop on a phone call. I can't talk to my friends. So I was kind of like jumping the gun a little bit. So now I have to take a step back and really focus on the French before I jump into the film scene here, which I'd love to. But what I am doing, though, I did get an agent, and they're based in Barcelona, and they cover UK and Europe. Television, films. Just got them a month ago, so we'll see what comes of that. I did meet you. You're a writer director yourself, so that's one legit connection I made so far. But yeah, I'm just like I said, I've only been here a month. I'm still trying to get out there. I would love if people have watching this have recommendations for some type of theater or not theater, but like a workshop, acting workshop in the Bordeaux region that is accessible for English speakers. That's the problem. I have found a few that are workshops, but it's not taught in English. I know there's some in Paris. I would love to just jump in one, work on the craft, obviously, but also make connections. That's a great way to meet some new people with the same passions.
Like I told you when we talked privately, I took the acting in English workshop at the world famous, illustrious acting school, Cours Florent. And my instructor was an English Australian woman who's lived here for 20 odd years and, totally fluent. She's totally Frenchified. But yeah, if you were in Paris, I've got your resource because then I joined her ongoing class, which was great. And it was basically scene study. And they ended up putting up a play. It's done on like her private classes. It operates in sync with like a semester system because it's kind of through the auspices of this college program, but it's a private thing and it's dirt cheap. I think it was like 120 euros for 3 months,
Wow. Yeah.
once a week. But that was really great. And I hope you find some resources in Bordeaux. We do have, there are a handful of French-based film theater type people who follow Shay Davis. So if you're one of those people and you're watching this and you have any ideas for Alekz, please drop them in the comments or message him directly on his channel. Let him know. But again, we won't spoil this too much, and I don't like to talk about things too much. Put the cart before the horse, as the saying goes. But I do have an idea for a creative project you and I can do. We've talked about this, and it's forming. It's congealing, not like it's congealing, not in a bad way, not like leftover food on the counter, but it's congealing in a good way where it's coming together. So language learning, how are you approaching getting your French? How are you approaching speaking good French better?
I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, really, I have a good soundboard of that is my wife. I can really fail in front of her and not feel too bad about it. So I kind of practice saying how I think I might want to say something often with her, which helps. And then also just the apps. I also use Duolingo. I have something called Busu. I have something called Superfluent. Then I just got a tutor. And actually, it's funny. The tutor today, I had a tutor before this call. He said he saw my video actually, and and I didn't tell him. Yeah, he was like, I just watched your 1 month in France video. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I think he's living in Philippines right now, teaching. He's French, but he's like teaching English and French over there. But wow, that was crazy.
That is so funny. Well, the algorithm must know he's a French expat somewhere, and so I'm sure YouTube knows you're expat in France, et cetera, French learning. is because for people who don't know the behind the scenes YouTube stuff, the algorithm, besides what like we take our time to write in the descriptions and like you can use tags and such to help point the right people to your video, YouTube scans. They have the internal transcripts of all the videos, and so they know what we're talking about. YouTube knows without us even telling them. So that's how you found this. If this is your first time watching my channel and you're not coming from Alex's channel, but you're seeing this, that's how, YouTube knows all. So that's a little scary. Speaking of YouTube, though, while you're out here trying to get your self-directed, your film career, your on-camera acting stuff, while you're out here trying to get that going locally, do you see Alekz Does France as kind of a creative outlet for you? I mean, I think there's a lot of creativity in your videos, which is part of why I liked them just right away. You translate is really authentic, and talking to you when we're not sharing it with people, yeah, you're the same guy. And I am mostly the same guy. I'm the same guy right now. I get a little more YouTubey sometimes when it's that kind of a video. It's like a how to do this thing, don't forget these things, but for you, I'll say for me, Shay Davis is absolutely a creative outlet, something to do while I'm out here working on getting one of my bigger film projects going, because that stuff takes forever. So for you, is this creative outlet satisfying you? And, do you see it as a calling card for yourself, kind of putting on the filmmaker hat, even possibly more than the actor hat? How do you see your channel?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely is a creative outlet for me. And yeah, I would say we're both creative people, so I'm sure it's somewhat for you too. Coming to France, I knew I wanted to do something just to be able to release the creativity, and making videos is a way for me to, first off, actually, I love editing videos. I took a video production class in high school. Shout out Mr. Strong. He taught me how to make a film and work with actors and edit them and then have a completed product. So I've always liked editing, so I would shoot stuff, and then when you get to the editing room, it's like a whole new movie. You probably know it's a whole new thing. You can do whatever you want. Your creative juices can flow in any direction. That's why, like one of my last videos, a 1 month in review in France. It's kind of cinematic a little bit, I really put in some beautiful shots around Bordeaux, and that was just me having fun. And then I figured out how to put some music in my videos, and that turned out a lot of fun too. But absolutely, I can release my creativity on my videos. I can see myself keep doing it. Definitely, it's not the same as acting, because I am trying to be authentic and stuff. But it does satisfy another side of me, So in the meantime, before I get some acting jobs, definitely going to be doing this and enjoying it.
Well, that video is fantastic. I mean, I know I said this before, and I'm not just being nice to you for the sake of saying nice things in an interview. I mean, that's actually, again, your earlier videos too. I saw that you had a real cinematic eye and way to speak to the camera and just be super authentic, and it's funny, it's funny and real, which are my favorite things. But yeah, that video you did a hell of a job on it. And as someone who, I mean, I bought my first house as an editor 25 years ago. So, I mean, I know editing,
Right.
I know this, I've been in this industry my entire life. And yeah, you're doing a great job. And that kind of leads me into sort of the home stretch of this here. Thinking about everything, and you can answer in parts or answer as one overall thought, whatever strikes your fancy. But where would you like to be a year from now, personally, professionally, both profession, and maybe, this channel's is another profession, it's another sidecar. But yeah, where would you like you and your careers, plural, and your family situation to be in a year?
Wow. Great question. I would love to have a job, actual job in France in a year. Not sure what, but I do want to get in society. That's a goal of mine is go somewhere, work with French people, interact daily. So that would be a job. But also, I would love to be getting gigs regularly with my agency. That'd be another goal. So somehow I'd have to find a job in France where the PTOs is pretty good. And then this
I think
channel.
that's everywhere in France, actually.
That's true. I have heard their vacation is insane, 5 weeks or something.
It starts there. Yeah, it starts there.
Wow. The channel, yeah, absolutely. I'll keep doing it. It's lovely that the channel has picked up some steam. I'm not expecting it to keep growing massively, but if it does, that's great. I'm mostly doing this kind of as a way to force me to actually do what I say. I said I'm going to learn French, and now everyone's watching me. So it's like, well, I guess I got to do it now. So
part of why I haven't done a series about me learning French yet.
Yeah, that's okay.
I talked about Duolingo in my 1 month class at Alliance Française, but yeah, I'm not doing like, here's my progress this month. I'm not setting myself up for that one, man.
It's okay. I need that push, honestly, because I do want to be speaking French and I want to do all that. But yeah, I'll still be doing my videos from now in a year. That'll be perfect segue, because come back from my channel in a year, you'll see my year in France review. So it'll be there in a year. But yeah, I just see myself hopefully integrating in society, getting a job, speaking better French. I won't be perfect. I don't know if anyone's really perfect, but I want to be conversational and hopefully scratching my artistic itch with acting. So hopefully getting those gigs and maybe even finding a band, if I get some time. I am kind of busy now, and I don't know if I'll ever not really be busy, but I have thought about the fact of possibly getting in a band again, because I love making music. I love being creative with other people. It's kind of like making a film with a bunch of creative people and you're making something together. Just love that energy. So maybe start a band. Who knows?
Maybe we could start a long distance virtual band. It's not quite the same thing. And you want to be in there in that room and have it be a little too loud and be deaf from the cymbals at the end. And yeah, I miss that a lot too. I miss having the musical. I mean, I do some music stuff. I'll talk about that more in my interview. People who watch the channel have some awareness of it, but yeah, I can relate to this. So, can you imagine, living here, raising your kids all the way through school here in France?
Absolutely, yeah, I can. Like I said earlier, that was like a lifetime ago back in the States. Really, I'm here now. I just want to move forward. And what we said, though, we want to live at least 5 years here, and then we'll see where we are. Because then the kids, the youngest will be in they'll all be in school, and they should all have a grasp on the language. But I'm not opposed to staying longer. We'll see what happens. I don't know. And really, there's a lot of political stuff going on in the States. But there's really
I'm just kidding. Really? What?
And in France, I hear too, but there's really not a good place anywhere for a World War III. So it doesn't matter. You're gonna live where you're gonna live, right?
Exactly. If I'm going down, I'm going down with a baguette and some cheese and some good wine in my hand.
Right. Yes.
Well, Alekz, this has been really, really great. I appreciate you taking all the time. We persevered through minor technical issues. We're both professionals, but hey, batteries are batteries, and they have an opinion of their own. I'm going to die now. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. For anyone who's watching, please make sure you're subscribed to both of our channels. We are covering different aspects of the same expat journey, and you'll get a really full picture by following us both. So, Alekz, until I see you again, where we flip the tables and you ask me a bunch of questions, I hope you have a great day. It's awesome to see you, man.
Thank you for having me, Brendan. I appreciate being here, and I will see you soon, my friend.
A bientôt.
A bientôt.